Hello students, I hope you all are doing good and you must have watched the video links that I sent to you in the last classes. I hope that have helped you to understand the main features of the Indus Valley civilization. We will begin with the reading on page number 25, main features. The Indus Valley civilization is famous for its well-planned cities. So, as we all know that in those videos also it was shown that how well the civilization was planned is something which is very famous about it. First is town planning. The main roads ran parallel to each other. The smaller streets intersected the main roads at right angles. This way, the entire city was divided into a series of rectangular blocks. So, just like how we have a planned city Chandigarh, we have the main roads that run parallel to each other, and those small streets, they intersect the main road, and most of them are into a right angle. So, if we see that they are divided into rectangular blocks. So, if we move from one road, if we keep taking right, we will reach back to the same road again. Okay. That is the way the civilization was planned, the town planning was planned. The main roads were wide, which were 8 to 10 meters, and curved at the corners for heavy carts to turn easily. That's exactly the way even our roads are built, so that there is no steep cut or a very sharp cut, but the heavy carts can easily take a the corners are curved so that the heavy carts or the heavy trucks or any other heavy vehicles can easily take a turn. That time also they were designed in that manner, and in fact, if we see, most of our town planning is also taken up from the Indus Valley civilization. There were street lamps on the roads. So, just like what we have, they at that time also had those street lamps on the roads. Houses were built on both sides of the street. Baked bricks of good quality were used to construct houses and other buildings. And the reason why baked bricks were used, because they could last long. The next is the citadel and the lower town. Most Indus cities were divided into two parts. Please underline this. First is the citadel and the lower town. The first is citadel and the second one is lower town. You can put a question there which can be name the two parts in which the Indus city were divided. Name the two parts in which the Indus cities were divided. So, the answer will be the Indus cities were divided into two parts, the citadel and the lower town. Now, please underline, the citadel was built on a raised ground. It was enclosed by high walls that provided protection in times of flood. It had public buildings, religious structures and granaries, and the last point says is the ruling class probably lived here. So, these 4 or 5 lines they are describing about the citadel. You can underline each of them and put 1, 2, 3, 4. So, we have 4 different points. I will read it once again. Citadel was built on a raised ground. This is point number 1. Second, it was enclosed by high walls that provided protection in times of flood. So, firstly, it was on a raised ground, not on a normal level, but on an elevated level, and then they had high walls that provided protection for in times of flood. Third is, it had public buildings, religious structures and granaries. So, the citadel was a big area in which they had other buildings also inside it. So, these are the buildings, that public buildings are there, religious structures and granaries, which I told you, warehouses where surplus grains were stored. And the last one it says about citadel is the ruling class probably lived here. So, that is the 4th important point about the citadel. And the ruling class people, they stayed in the citadel area. So, you can write a question, write few features about the citadel, write few features about the citadel. In that case, you can write all these 4 points. Coming to lower town, the lower town was at a lower height than the citadel, but much bigger in area. So, citadel, first point it says is on a raised ground. So, now which is not on a raised ground was the lower town, and this area was a bigger area than the citadel area. Second point of lower town, it says it had small buildings and houses of the common people. So, if ruling class lived in the citadel, the common people lived in the lower town area. So, two different points are there, and you can also create one question. Where did the common people in Indus city lived? Where did the common people in the Indus city lived? The answer will be the common people lived in the lower town. Next page, buildings on the citadel. So, we just read that there were a few buildings there, religious structures also, granaries also. Now, we are going to study about them in detail. Harappa. Amongst the most impressive buildings found in Harappa are the 2 rows of 6 granaries each, popularly known as the Great Granary. So, they have divided these buildings on the citadel into 2, which is one is about Harappa, the other one is about Mohenjo-daro. So, these two, there are 2 different cities. Okay. So, about Harappa, they are saying the most impressive one is the Great Granary. So, on either sides they had 6 granaries each. So, 6 warehouses on each side. It was used to store surplus grains for use in times of flood or famine. So, like normally we also do a little storing in case of emergency. We have our extra, for example, our mothers also do saving, no. So, money they have kept safe in case of emergency. And similarly, even in case of food also, their mothers in at home, you know, they also keep something for a you know, what do you say, an emergency period. Similarly, in this time also the surplus grain, that is, once the use of the city people is over, or they would know that this much would be required for to feed the people of the city, the rest was stored in the Great Granary, and this was stored so that in case if there is a flood where people cannot do agriculture, or if there is a famine when there is no water from rain and there are no crops grown. So, during that time this surplus grain can be used. The granaries were built close to rivers so that grains could be transported easily to the boats. So, it was purposefully built near the river so that in case if this grain need to be transferred to some other place, it can also be done through the boats. Archaeologists have found circular brick platforms near the granaries. So, brick platforms in the granaries have been found, and why? The reason is they were probably used for threshing grain. So, threshing of grain means you remove the unwanted particles, you just thresh it, a different way of sieving they are. So, you stand on an elevated platform and you must have seen the farmers doing that. So, the thin husk of that grain, just once it is kept on an elevated thing with the help of a net or something, it just flies away and only the grain stays back. So, basically a filtering kind of a process, threshing the grain also. They were probably used to thresh the grain. There were also many furnaces where metal workers made objects. So, near the granary also there were furnaces, okay, where these metal workers made objects. Now, hot burning metal was put, and then they used to bring different objects also, I mean carve out objects out of the metal. And then last one that says numerous 2-room quarters found nearby were probably the house of laborers. Now, quarters are residences. You can underline quarter, it means a residence. Okay. So, they are talking about the Harappa and the buildings inside the Harappa citadel. They are saying that the Great Granary was there, and in the Great Granary surplus grains were stored because they could be used in time of flood or famine, and there were 6 granaries on each side. Then the granaries were built near the river so that it could be transported easily through the boats. Then they are saying that circular brick platforms were found near the granaries, probably used for threshing the grain, and many furnaces were also found that the metal workers probably used to make objects. And the last one they say is that 2-room quarters were found nearby. They were probably the whole house of laborers who worked in these probably granaries or the metal furnaces. Okay. Now, next is Mohenjo-daro. A large granary has been found in Mohenjo-daro. Like the granary in Harappa, it may have also been used to store food grains. So, in Mohenjo-daro also they had a citadel area, and that they found a granary just similar to that of Harappa. Next line is, like the granary in Harappa, it may have also been used. So, just the archaeologists have figured out it probably would have been the same reason that the granary were built. The most impressive structure is the Great Bath. Please underline this. You must be aware, where is the Great Granary? The Great Granary is in Harappa. And where is the Great Bath? The Great Bath is in Mohenjo-daro. It is a rectangular structure and resembles a swimming pool. So, in the video that I had sent, it was very clearly mentioned the Great Bath, a rectangular structure it is, baked bricks were used, and it was used for special baths during special occasions. Okay. So, you can underline these lines and put a question there. Describe the features of the Great Bath. For this paragraph, you can put a question. Describe the features of Great Bath. So, what you can write begin with is this paragraph. The most impressive structure is a Great Bath. The first point could be, it is rectangular structure and resembles a swimming pool. The next point can be, it is made of baked bricks and has been made watertight with a layer of bitumen or tar. So, obviously, if it is containing water, it has to be sealed properly so that the water does not flow away. And we see bitumen is colored in blue, so it will be there in the new words. If you can turn your pages to page number 30. Bitumen is a black sticky substance used for covering roads or roof, which we know, which we use probably something similar to what we use to create roads also. We say a damar or something like that, which is bitumen. Okay. So, bitumen was used to seal the baked bricks so that the water is does not pass away from the swimming pool. There were rooms on the side for changing clothes. So, just as if we see, if you have a swimming pool in your society or at your home, so you have a changing provision there for people who want to use it. At that time also they were so thoughtful that they created changing rooms for people so that they can change the clothes before using the Great Bath. The Great Bath was perhaps used for bathing on special occasions. So, people during that time believed in religious rituals also, and even till today, even we have certain ritual baths that people do in Ganga or any other river, holy rivers. So, that time also, I mean, in fact, it began from that time only. From that time, people are taking special, baths on special occasion. So, this Great Bath was probably used or mostly used for baths on special occasion. Another famous building found is the Assembly Hall. You can underline this line. So, when we talk about buildings in the citadel in Mohenjo-daro, we have one Great Bath mentioned here, and the second one is Assembly Hall. Please underline this line. It was a hall with pillars and thick walls. So, just as we have a hall, the auditorium also, it has, thick walls as well, and many of you would have seen different auditoriums having pillars as well. So, just, you can also imagine this assembly hall was a big hall with had pillars and thick walls. People probably assembled here to discuss important issues. So, the purpose of this hall was to assemble and discuss important issues. You can underline this and you can put a question. Name two main buildings. Name two main buildings in Mohenjo-daro. Name two main buildings in Mohenjo-daro. The first one can be the Great Bath and the second could be the Assembly Hall. Now, let's come to the buildings in the lower town. So far we studied about the buildings on the citadel. Now we are going to study about the buildings in the lower town. Residential buildings have been found in the lower town. So we know that in the citadel area, the people of the ruling class lived in the citadel and the common people, they lived in the lower town. So here it is quite evident, it's written residential area. Residential means where people used to reside. Now, so wherever we are right now is our residential area. So, residential building for living purposes, they created the building. Residential buildings have been found in the lower town. The houses were 1 or 2 stories high and had flat roofs. So, not just a one story building, but at that time also they had a multi-story building. So, 1 or 2 story high building it was there, and the roof was flat. It was not pyramid shape, it was a flat roof. There they were built of baked bricks and had thick strong walls which were plastered. So, children, if we look around buildings and roofs, we can easily see that the buildings are they are plastered and strong walls are there. So, that is learned from the earlier times only. So, during the Indus Valley civilization, rooms were basically made of baked bricks so that they could last long, and had thick strong walls which were plastered. Most houses had a courtyard with rooms around it, a bathroom, a kitchen and a well. So, the rooms that these houses had, they had a common area which was known as courtyard, and around the courtyard there were rooms, and each house had a bathroom, a kitchen and a well. So, 3 very important things they had. The bathroom was there, the kitchen and a well supplied to the water needs of the house. Next is the drainage system. An excellent and well planned drainage system characterized this civilization. The bathrooms had sloping floors and drains which were connected to the street drains. So, the drainage system, basically the idea generated by Indus Valley, and they planned it very well, that even till today whatever we follow is somehow we owe it to the history. Okay. So, the bathrooms had sloping floors, and the idea of sloping floors, even till today we have in our bathroom, the water does not get collected, it drains out, and the drains, those the water that is collected from the bathroom goes and gets connected to the street drains. The kitchen also had drains connected to the main street drains. The main drains ran along the side of the street. They were covered with bricks. The drains had manholes so that they could be cleaned regularly. Even till today we have the same process. There are manholes so that in case there is a block, it is with the help of municipality it is cleaned. This suggests that people paid great attention to hygiene and sanitation. So, this is something which we need to learn, that during that time they paid very minute detailed interest in how the city was planned. Even the drainage was planned very carefully. Next is dockyard. Okay, a brick dockyard has been excavated at Lothal. The dockyard was probably used for berthing ships. Scholars believe that Lothal was a port for overseas trade, possibly with Mesopotamia. So, please underline the word dockyard, and this line, the scholars believed that Lothal was a port for overseas trade, possibly with Mesopotamia. We have learnt that there were in the Mesopotamian trade, that there were evidences that trade occurred between Indus Valley and Mesopotamia. Here also we are aware that Lothal was a port which was believed to have conducted overseas trade. Now, what is a dockyard? Come to new words. Dockyard is a place where ships are built and repaired and goods loaded and unloaded. So, dockyard is a place where ships are built. Ships get built also and they get repaired also. So, basically it is going to be near the seaside. Okay. So, that is something which we need to learn. So, berthing ships means where ships used to come and place itself, maybe like parking itself, and if there is a repair, the repair was done there, and goods whichever it carried from the other cities, it used to be unloaded there. If it had to be exported from that dockyard, it was loaded onto the ships. So far children, I think we are good for today's lesson. Please give a reading to the next portion also. In the next class, I will be taking up administration, society, food up till occupation on page number 28, somewhere near before transport. Okay, we will end in the next class there. Thank you.